News Time. Tinubu challenges Atiku Obi to debate. Deadly attack rocks Sokoto. Oyo declares Isese Day holiday. Trump threatens Iran supporters. Good evening and welcome to Skyline News Time. I am Moreno Haniel. President Bola Tinubu has challenged opposition figures Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi to engage him in an open debate on their competing visions for the Nigeria ahead of the 2027 presidential election. Oiza Denika has the details.
President Bola Tinubu has called on Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi to join him in an open debate on Nigeria's future as political activities intensify ahead of the 2027 election. The president says the campaign should focus on policies and solutions to the country's challenges rather than personal attacks. His call comes as political parties strengthen their structures and begin mobilizing supporters across the country. Tinubu is expected to campaign on his economic reforms and development programs, while the opposition is likely to focus on the impact of those policies on Nigerians. The proposed debate could therefore provide voters with an opportunity to compare the plans and priorities of the major political contenders. Dan Eka Oiza, reporting for Skyline News.
The Independent National Electoral Commission says Nigeria could have more than 100 million registered voters ahead of the 2027 general election as preparations for the poll intensify. Mohammed Musa has more on the report.
INEC is stepping up preparations for the 2027 elections as political parties begin full-scale campaigns across the country. The Commission is projecting that the number of registered voters could exceed 100 million, reflecting Nigeria's growing voting population. INEC has also been working on logistics, personnel, and technology required for the elections. With the electoral body expected to deploy large numbers of ad hoc staff across polling units, the Commission has stressed the importance of early preparation and compliance with electoral rules as parties and candidates begin mobilizing supporters. Muhammad Musa for Skyline News.
President Bola Tinubu has ordered the deployment of a 5-year national security threat assessment and defense plan as part of efforts to strengthen Nigeria's response to emerging security challenges. Oiza Denika of Skyline News has more on the report.
The directive is expected to provide security agencies with a longer-term framework for identifying and responding to threats facing the country. The assessment will examine Nigeria's security environment and help determine priorities for defense planning, intelligence gathering, and resource allocation. The initiative comes as the government faces continuing challenges from terrorism, banditry, kidnapping, and other forms of criminality. Officials say a coordinated long-term approach is necessary to improve national security and protect communities. Oiza Eka for Skyline News.
Osun State Governor Ademola Jackson Adeleke has received his certificate of return following his victory in the state's governorship election and has announced a 5-year million naira relief fund for victims of election-related violence. Mohammed Musa again has the report.
Adeleke's victory has further strengthened his political position in Osun as he begins preparations for another phase of his administration. The governor said the proposed relief fund is intended to support people affected by violence during the election period. The development comes as political stakeholders continue to assess the outcome of the poll and its implication for the 2027 political landscape. Adeleke has also called for unity and peaceful coexistence amongst residents following the election. Muhammad Musa for Skyline News.
President Bola Tinubu is expected to present the 2026 appropriation bill before a joint session of the National Assembly, with the proposed budget put at about 54.4 trillion naira. Oiza Dineke again has the report.
The proposed budget will outline the federal government's spending priorities and the development plans as the administration enters another phase of its economic program. Areas expected to receive attention include infrastructure, security, human capital development, and economic growth. The presentation will also give lawmakers an opportunity to scrutinize the government's revenue projection and expenditure plans. The size and the priorities of the proposed budget are expected to generate debate as lawmakers consider how government's resources should be allocated. Dan Eka Oiza for Skyline News.
Defense Minister Mohammed Baduru has engaged representatives of ex-servicemen following protests over pension and welfare concerns. The meeting is part of efforts by the federal government to address grievances raised by military veterans over their entitlement and welfare. Government officials have reaffirmed their commitment to improving the welfare of veterans while seeking a peaceful resolution to outstanding issues. We move to the northern part of the country. A deadly security incident has been reported in Sokoto State, with residents and soldiers among those killed during an attack involving Lakurawa fighters. Reports indicate that local residents mounted a counter-operation against the armed group, killing several of its members. Security agencies are continuing efforts to contain the threat as authorities work to prevent further attacks on the communities in the area. Still on security in the country, the Nigerian Army is working to improve the accuracy and management of personnel data as part of efforts to strengthen its administrative systems. Officials say better data management will improve planning, deployment, and welfare administration within the service. The move is also expected to help address gaps in personnel records and improve efficiency across the Army operations. Similarly, the Independent Corrupt Practice and Other Related Offences Commission is strengthening its prevention-based approach to fighting corruption. The Commission's Academy has been training officers to identify vulnerabilities and prevent corrupt practices before they become entrenched. Officials say prevention alongside investigation and prosecution is critical to reducing corruption across public institutions. Security authorities are calling for stronger cooperation between civilians and military in the fight against terrorism and other forms of insecurity. The call comes as communities in affected areas continue to face threats from armed groups and criminal networks. Authorities say intelligence sharing and cooperation with local communities remain essential to preventing attacks and improving security operations. More stories after the break. Please do stay with us. Thank you for staying with us on Sky News. Now we move to other states. The Oyo State government has declared Thursday, August 20th, a work-free day to allow residents celebrate Isese Day. The declaration is aimed at supporting the preservation and promoting of Yoruba indigenous culture and traditions. Residents have been encouraged to use the occasion to celebrate peacefully and promote cultural heritage in the state. The Edo State government says it is committed to completing ongoing roads projects across the state. The aide to the governor on Monday, Okpebolo, said administration intends to ensure the major road projects are completed within its tenure. The government says the projects are part of efforts to improve transportation, connectivity, and economic activity across Edo State. Still in Edo State, police in the state have arrested a suspect in connection with an alleged kidnapping case involving a person who reportedly met the suspect through TikTok. The arrest forms part of ongoing efforts by security agencies to investigate the use of social media platforms by criminals to target victims. Police authorities are continuing investigation while urging residents to exercise caution when meeting people online. We move to Anambra State. While the state has emerged as the lead state in the pilot National Community Health Workforce Program, the initiative is expected to strengthen healthcare delivery at grassroots by improving the availability and capacity of community health workers. Officials say the program will help extend basic healthcare service to more communities and improve access to essential care. Still on health, the Lagos State Health Management Agency has inaugurated a mobile clinic in Badagry as part of its effort to improve access to healthcare. The facility is expected to provide basic medical service to residents who may face difficulties accessing conventional healthcare facilities. Officials say bringing healthcare closer to communities will help improve early intervention and encourage residents to seek medical attention when necessary. Still on Skyline News, we now go to business. The federal government says its economic reforms generated saving of about 15.8 trillion naira, while government expenditure to cushion the effect of reforms has reached 30.64 trillion naira. Mohammed Musa has more on this report.
The figures cover the period from June 2023 to December 2025 and reflect the financial impact of removal of petrol subsidy and other major economic charges introduced by the Tinubu administration. Government says the savings come alongside increased revenue and other additional resources available to the federation. However, the cost of implementing measures to cushion the effects of the reforms was also significant, with expenditure reaching more than 30 trillion naira. The figures have renewed debate over the short-term cost of the reforms and their long-term benefit for Nigeria's public finances. Mohammed Musa for Skyline News.
Demand for foreign exchange by end users in Nigeria has fallen by more than 35%, easing pressure on the dollar market and supporting the naira. Oiza Denika has more on this.
Data shows that end-user demand for foreign exchange fell to about $3.42 billion in April 2026, representing a decline of 35.23%. The reduction in demand has helped ease pressure on the foreign exchange market as the naira recorded modest gains. Lower demand for dollars could provide some relief for businesses that depend on foreign exchange to import goods and raw materials. However, analysts will continue to monitor liquidity, inflation, and other factors that influence the naira's performance. Oiza Daneika for Skyline News.
The Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission says new deep offshore incentives could attract about $50 billion in investment and add almost 1 million barrels of crude oil and condescend to Nigeria's daily production. Mohammed Musa has more on this report.
The regulator says the new incentive could unlock investment in major offshore projects that have remained stalled for years. Nigeria currently produces about 1.7 million barrels per day of crude oil and condensate, while deep offshore fields account for a significant share of the country's production. The government hopes the incentive will provide investors with greater certainty and encourage final investment decisions on major projects. If the projected investment materialize, the additional production could strengthen government revenue, exports, and Nigeria's position in the global oil market. Mohammed Musa for Skyline News.
More stories after the break. Please do stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. We're still in business. Manufacturers in Nigeria are calling for greater policy stability and lower energy costs, saying both are necessary to improve production and strengthen competitiveness of local industries. Oiza Danieka joins us now with more on the report.
Manufacturers say unpredictable policies, high energy costs, and difficult access to financing continue to affect production across the sector. They are asking government to create a more stable operating environment that will encourage investment and allow businesses to plan for the long term. The demand comes as Nigeria seeks to expand domestic production, create jobs, and reduce dependence on imported goods. Industry stakeholders say sustained reforms and reliable power supply will be essential to achieving those goals. Oiza Daneka for Skyline News.
Total Energies has called for stronger investment certainty and bankable projects as Nigeria seeks to unlock new growth in its oil and gas industry. Again, Mohammed Musa of Skyline has more on this report.
The company says Nigeria's oil and gas growth will depend on translating recent reforms into projects that can attract and retain long-term investment. The call comes as the federal government introduces new incentives aimed at increasing production and bringing stalled development back on stream. Industry operators say investors need predictable regulations, commercially viable projects, and clear policy direction before committing billions of dollars. Increased investment could help Nigeria raise production, generate revenue, and strengthen energy security. I am Muhammad Musa for Skyline News.
President Donald Trump has strengthened countries supporting Iran with severe economic consequences as the conflict between Washington and Tehran continues to escalate. Trump says his administration is launching a major campaign aimed at isolating Iran economically and putting pressure on countries that continue to support Tehran. Iran has rejected the threat, describing the American approach as another failed pressure campaign. The development comes as the conflict continues to disrupt regional trade and energy market, with concerns also growing over shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. China has meanwhile called for diplomacy and warned against relying solely on economic pressure. Still on the foreign scene, Iran has rejected President Donald Trump's latest threat of intensified economic pressures, insisting that Washington's strategy will not force Tehran to surrender. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi described the American campaign as a continuation of policies that have failed to change Iran's position. Tehran also criticized the threat as an attempt to divert attention from issues within the United States. The latest exchange further complicates efforts to find a diplomatic solution to the conflict, with uncertainty remaining over negotiations and future of regional security. Still in the United States, the country has committed more than $206 million to support a proposed international stabilization force for Gaza. The funding is expected to support infrastructure, equipment, and other requirements for the proposed force as part of efforts to establish a post-war security arrangement in the territory. However, major disagreements remain over the implementation of wider peace plan, particularly issues surrounding Israeli withdrawal and disarmament of Hamas. The situation continues to attract intense international attention. At least 10 Palestinians are reportedly been killed in Israeli airstrikes in Gaza, with attacks hitting areas including a police headquarters and a refugee camp. The latest strike comes amid continuing efforts to secure a lasting political settlement and reduce violence in the territory. Humanitarian conditions remain a major concern as fighting continues. International pressure for a sustainable ceasefire and political solution remains high, but disagreements between Israel and Hamas continue to complicate efforts to end the conflict. Diplomatic efforts aimed at resolving the confrontation between the United States and Iran are facing fresh uncertainty following Washington's latest threat of economic pressure. President Trump says the United States wants an agreement that will place tighter restriction on Iran's nuclear program, while Tehran continues to reject what it considers excessive American demands. The dispute is being closely watched by the international community because of its potential impact on energy supplies, regional stability, and global markets. More stories after the break. Please do stay with us. You can watch Skyline News on Nightcomsat and Free TV. Stay connected wherever you are by streaming us live on the Free TV app, available for both. Welcome back. Now we move to sports. Spanish side Sevilla are reportedly leading the race to sign Nigeria's eligible striker George Ikenna. The young forward has attracted interest from several European clubs, with Bologna and Trabzonspor also understood to be monitoring his situation. His performances have increased attention around his future. The transfer battle could provide another major opportunity for the striker to continue his development at a top European club. Super Eagles midfielder Christantus Uche has undergone successful surgery following a knee injury suffered during the preseason. The injury is a setback for Nigerian, who had been preparing for the new campaign and hoping to establish himself further at the club level. Uche will now begin rehabilitation as he works towards a return to full fitness. His recovery timeline will determine when he can resume competitive football. Still on sport, Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta says he wants the club to develop into the best football team in the world. The statement comes as the Premier League Championship prepare for another demanding season, with Arsenal expected to defend their domestic title and compete strongly in Europe. Arteta's ambitions reflect the club's growing expectations following their successes, with attention now turning to whether Arsenal can maintain their momentum and dominate across multiple competitions. From sports now, we move to entertainment. Afrobeat sensation Ira Star is celebrating a major international win after her third studio album, Star Girl, debuted at number 3 on Spotify Top Album Debut UK chart. The 16-track project features a star-studded collaboration with global heavyweights Wizkid, Rema and Zayn Malik. The charting performance marks one of the highest UK streaming debut for a female artist on the platform. Fans and industry observers have taken to the social media to celebrate the milestone as Arya Star continues to cement her position as one of Africa's biggest musical exports. Nollywood veterans Kate Henshaw and Gideon Okeke are set to lead a high-profile ensemble cast for the stage adaptation of Bobo Omotayo's best-selling satirical book, London Life, Lagos Living. The musical play, directed by Kenneth and co-produced by Egoboyo, will run at the Black Diamond Hotel in Victoria Island, Lagos. Alongside Henshaw and Okeke, the stellar cast includes Ejiofor, Suleiman, Chioma, Omere and Forka Kunle. The production explores the humorous cultural fiction, identity clashes and realities of Nigerians navigating life between London and Lagos, setting of immense anticipation among theatre lovers across the city. Hollywood superstar Will Smith is making headlines across global cinema circle following reports that he is in discussions to star as the main antagonist in the upcoming India sci-fi epic Raka, directed by acclaimed filmmaker Atlee. The highest budget film stars include Indian icon Allu Arjun alongside Deepika. Reports indicate that a year of negotiation has concluded with Will Smith's costumes already finalized as production team arranged international filming schedules around his availability. If confirmed, the project will mark Will Smith's official debut in Indian cinema, sparking massive excitement across both Hollywood and Bollywood fan base. Now to London, where Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are dominating international headlines following reports that the couple is making arrangements for a permanent relocation back to the United Kingdom after 6 years of residing in California. Internal sources suggest that Duke and Duchess of Sussex are planning their move to London, with plans for Prince Archie and Princess Libet to begin schooling in the UK. The development has reignited global media discussions around the royal family and their evolving relationship with the British public. That's all we have this evening on Skyline News Time. Thank you for joining us. I'm your anchor, Morena Haniel. Do have a very lovely evening.